Reports. Nathan Olson.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. We're going to keep it light for you tonight due to the length of the schedule. So just Fire Chief German has his report he'd like to give.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. This is my report for the month of May. We had 5 meetings and drills. We had 23 fire calls, 114 EMT calls, and 4 miscellaneous training calls for a monthly total of 146. Year-to-date meetings and drills were 22. Year-to-date fire calls, 125. Year-to-date EMT calls, 648. Year-to-date miscellaneous trainings were 10. For a year-to-date total of 805 total calls. Also, if I may, I know Chief Smith is going to present or talk about the dispatch center a little bit later. If I may, I need to get back across. We're doing our target solutions orientation tonight,
Nice.
So I need to get back across. I made a list of all the reasons why we support it, the fire department, but we have supported it since day one. And if we can get it implemented, that'd be great. The main thing, we just had a call about an hour and a half or 2 hours ago, and the call was low potassium. And we get called out on it. And if you guys remember my report, my year-end report for 2017, over 60% of our medical calls were canceled, and 4 calls like that. And I understand that once we get the dispatch center, we're going to be able to work together and get some of those nuisance calls taken care of and worked out so that we're not up 5-6 times during the night on these nuisance calls. So Lemoore Fire Department supports that. Chief Smith's proposal for that, 100%. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That's it for department reports this week.
Okay, so we will go ahead and move on to our consent calendar. Section 3, we have 12 items. That includes the item 3-12 on the concurrent special session that we are running at this time. So at this time, do I have any motion to approve the consent calendar? Or is there anything that you would like to have pulled for further discussion?
I would like to please have items 3-4, 3-5, 3-6, and 3-7 please pulled for discussion. And we can do them quick, but
3, 4, 5, 6, and 7.
Yeah, all the investment report ones.
Okay. Any others?
And I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar excluding items 3-4 through 3-7.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Chittister and a second by Mr. Brown to approve the consent calendar except for 3-4, 3-5, 3-6, and 3-7. So, Mr. Chittister.
Aye.
Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Ms. Blair.
Aye.
Mr. Neal.
Aye.
And I vote aye. Consent calendar is passed. Thank you. So now we will go ahead and pull item 3-4 for further discussion.
And 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 are all investment reports. I just wanted them all pulled for sort of the same reason, in the interest of transparency, what those are and what those numbers mean. And we can do it quickly. I just wanted to make sure you know my intention there.
So, Ms. Corder, would you like to come up and speak on those items, please?
Yes. Those investment reports are the total amount of liquid assets that the city has at that time, at the end of the month. And so what it's done is it's broken down into different buckets per se, like there's liquid cash, there's CDs and that sort of thing, and it makes sure that we're following the investment policy. So what it does is it allows you to see it move with the trends of as the market moves, you can also see the money move. So
Right.
that's what those are there for.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Is there any public comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, bring it back to council for a vote, discussion.
No, I honestly just wish to have a lot of our items, I have comments made oftentimes, especially our financial items, with misunderstanding or the information may not be as upfront with people. So I figured this would be a good opportunity when we see these things come up to clearly explain what these numbers mean and what sort of investment reports mean for the city and for the community, so that it eliminates some of that confusion and we add some of that transparency that we all said was our goal going forward. So I hope that added to that. And I hope our community members who are still interested would come forward and make comments and ask questions. Thank you.
So, can we vote on those 4 items as a block, or do we have to do each individually?
Yes, Mayor and Council, you can vote on the 4 items. They are part of the consent calendar, and they were pulled off as a block. You can vote on them as a block.
That's fine.
Okay.
I'll move to approve items 3-4, 3-5, 3-6, and 3-7, please.
A second.
All right.
Okay, motion by Ms. Blair and a second by Mr. Neal to approve item 3-4, 3-5, 3-6, and 3-7. Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Neal?
Aye.
Mr. Chittister?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Those items are passed. Thank you. All right, so now we will go to public hearings, section 4. The first one is item 4-1. That is fiscal year 18-19 budget adoption and resolution. It's resolution 2018-34. Ms. Corder.
Good evening, council members. This is your budget that you guys have seen a couple of times now. I think it's been out for about 6 weeks. Last council meeting, Michelle came forward and clarified some items. I was watching a tiger cub become a wolf cub, so that's why I missed last council meeting. But it's pretty much the same. There are some additions from last year that I want to point out that were requested. There's an appendix glossary of terms, so we added that in there so that it can help everybody out. It's pretty much what you guys have seen and what you approved. And also included is this budget in brief that breaks it down. And I would love to take credit for all of this, but I just did the numbers. Amanda did all of the work on this. So she's the one that, even though I give numbers and I think that they're very informative and people love to read them, she's the one that makes people actually want to read them. So that's what, she did all of this work. So this is a little thing that talks about our budget, where our general fund monies come from, projected general fund monies come from, and everything like that. So I'm here to answer questions or comments or.
Just want to thank you for the time that you've spent on this, Ms. Corder.
Thank
You did
you.
a great job. It's been a lot of work, a lot of numbers, and I know you enjoy it.
I do love it. So I can't believe people pay me to do this.
I want to thank you myself also, because this is something that the people can look at and read, and it's easy to understand. So thank you very much to you and the staff.
Very transparent.
Very.
Any questions?
I had just one question about the, this is beautiful, by the way. I just wanted to know if this would be placed on our website and on social media, and when that will be available for the public to be able to see online. So.
Yes, it can be on, and it can go on. If it's not up yet, it'll be tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
It'll be tomorrow, because we hand it out here
Helpful for
first,
a
so
lot
it
of
goes
folks who go
tomorrow.
online to look.
Because nobody gets to see it till you guys see it.
Yeah, secret to you.
Okay, no other questions at this time. I'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Is there any member of the public that wishes to come forward and speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing on this item. Back to council for vote. Have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve item 4-1 and approve the recommended operation budget for fiscal year 2018 through 2019. And
second.
thank you.
Okay, so there is a motion by Mr. Chittister and a second by Mr. Neal to approve the budget and the resolution. Mr. Chittister?
Aye.
Mr. Neal?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
No.
And I vote aye. Motion is passed. We will go to item 4-2. This is also a public hearing. This is the first reading adopting ordinance providing a cost-sharing sidewalk repair program, ordinance 2018-05. Mr. Olson.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. So before you tonight is a potential ordinance that would help share in the cost of repairing some of the bad sidewalks in town. Currently, California Streets and Highway Code Section 5610 puts the sole responsibility of the right-of-way in front of their personal property on the owner. And as my stint at Public Works, one of the things that the city would do is we'd send a homeowner a letter and say, hey, your sidewalk's pretty bad. You need to fix it, or we're gonna fix it for you and lien your property. We quit sending those notices out just because, quite frankly, the city has some problem areas too that we haven't gotten to ourselves. So we're trying to figure out how can we come up with a solution, help go further with the dollars. So we've been putting about $100,000 a year into our sidewalks. So what this will do is if a homeowner wants to fix their sidewalk, it'll allow them to come in and apply for the program. They'll get their permits. We will share the cost of their sidewalk repair up to $2,500 per household, and then it's kind of on a first come first serve. When the money runs out, we'll stop the program and hopefully have additional funding for it again the following year. So basically what this does is allow the money to go a little further.
Thank you. Questions, council?
I do. I don't know if this is appropriate for public comment, but going forward, I would like to see our first come first serve basis have homeowners that live in the city be a priority. We do have owners of homes here who don't live in the city, who rent. We have a lot of young entrepreneurs who sometimes have multiple complexes, and I would hate to see those who don't actually live in the vicinity take advantage of the program before the citizens that live here do. So the only suggestion I would add is if we add some language that would prioritize those that live in the city limits versus those who may be owners of the home but renting it out.
So I guess my comment to that would be, it's tough to know. The city sidewalks are there for everybody's benefit and everybody's use. So,
say for instance, we deplete our funds, but it is all for one business entity. It doesn't really benefit the intended purpose of helping ease the burden of the homeowners. If only one or two people take advantage of the program, it sort of defeats the purpose of the point of this.
so Ms. Councilmember Blair, there's a cap per application of $2,500. So on the cost share, so the most the city would pay one property owner to fix that site would be $2,500. It's capped at that. So one person couldn't come in and fix $100,000 worth of sidewalk and expect to get $50,000 from the city. There's absolutely a cap on it.
Is there any distinction between someone who owns, maybe they own 5 houses and they're only working on that house in the city, and we have citizens that are living here right now? There's no way to double check that and make sure that we prioritize those residents that live here?
Again, I would say that it's kind of per household or per address. So the benefit to the city and the community is that any portion of sidewalk that got repaired that normally wouldn't, I think is a win for our community and for the city. I hear you. I'm not sure how we would.
I don't see why we can't simply ask. If they lie to us, it's not our fault, but why can't we at least ask that they live here or not?
We could ask that they live here, but the purpose of the program is to fix bad sidewalks and to help share that cost with the residences. So people that are renting homes in Lemoore have a vested interest in Lemoore. They have properties here. So somebody's living in that house, and somebody's, I look at it as not definitely the owner, but there's a resident in that home, and it limits the liability of a trip and fall hazard for anybody using that sidewalk.
Right.
So,
Well, I respectfully disagree. I think that we should prioritize those that live in the city first before we prioritize those business owners who own multiple houses throughout the area.
and this is
And don't live here.
This is a first reading, so it has to come back for a second hearing.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I'm looking at this and I can see driveways, but when it comes to sidewalks, we don't have no jurisdiction to tell people to get off their sidewalks because it's not our sidewalk. Is I'm correct on that? Do we own that sidewalk, the owners of the houses?
The sidewalk is part of public right-of-way, but the law states that the homeowner is responsible for the maintenance of that sidewalk.
Okay. So they're gonna, we wanna go joint, try to make it work hand in hand where we work with the owners of the houses where they have a cracked sidewalk. For instance, a tree is uprooting the sidewalk.
Mhm.
So we're gonna work with them on that.
Yes, so they would come down and they would file their permit and say, we have a sidewalk that is uprooted, or a tree that is uprooted our sidewalk. And then what we would do is they would go through the approved tree list. The Public Works Department would issue them an encroachment permit to remove the tree. We'd give them the list of approved trees. And then they'd, rip out their bad 1 or 2 sections of sidewalk, pour it back. City inspectors would go out, pass it, tree'd get replanted. They'd check their boxes, and then they could be reimbursed for half that cost by the city, up to $2,500.
Who lays those sidewalks in? I'm just curious.
Pardon me?
Who puts the sidewalks in?
The sidewalks go in as part of the developments. When they're built, they are put in then.
Any kind of way next, like, we're building a house on Hanford, I'm on the road, and the sidewalks there as well. Is that gonna be an ongoing process that if something happens to a sidewalk, because you can't tell people, it's kind of like, it's a double standard in a way. If I can't tell nobody that's my property, I can understand my driveway, but I can't understand the sidewalk. Although, like you said, it's the law. That means you gotta go to the state.
Yeah.
I see this is bigger than.
Well, so typically right now, Mr. Deal, if you have a 10-foot section of sidewalk in front of your home, the way the law is today, you're responsible for that piece of sidewalk. Under the Streets and Highway Code, the city can send you a letter and give you 45 days to fix your sidewalk. If you choose not to fix your sidewalk after 45 days, the city has the right to come in and fix the sidewalk for you, and then put a lien against your property for reimbursement. So basically, if you ever wanted to transfer or sell that home, you'd have to pay the city back for the work that was done to that sidewalk. I took some personal issue with that because I feel like there was trees planted back in the day that weren't the right trees, that shouldn't go there. So I felt like, we're going to be replacing sections of sidewalk. This is a way to stretch the dollar a little further. We can share the cost, because as it reads now, the city's not liable for any of it. So we're actually freeing up some money to help our residents and partner with them to make a safer community.
Okay, so I'm just saying, I'm just talking now. So if you got a group of kids that are on your sidewalk, you can't tell them to leave because they can say, that's not your sidewalk.
Daryl, can I refer to you on that? I'm not sure about that. You can't ask them to leave if they're soliciting.
Oh, so this, okay. I didn't know that. Thank you.
So that's a good question, I guess, for the city attorney. So can you clarify that? I mean, it seems a little bit vague. I think what we're trying to do here is add on to and clarify what state statute has already told us. Not only are we offering a program for people to help them improve their sidewalk and fix the ones they need, but it also seems like we're also clarifying the liability piece of it, according to this.
Mayor and council, the liability issue under state law is well settled. It is the property owner's responsibility. And what this ordinance is attempting to do is to provide a vehicle so that there can be some cost reimbursement for that, allowing the owners to keep the property at a level or a condition that's not dangerous to the public. Now, the other issue that came up as to whether or not a property owner could ask somebody to leave the public sidewalk or the public right-of-way on the sidewalk, I'd suggest that it really depends on what they're doing. If they're walking or if they're standing and talking, I would have some pause about having a property owner tell them to move on. But if they're engaged in activity that starts to almost create a nuisance on the property, I think there would be the ability to tell them that they need to cease the behavior and move on.
I have a question for the city attorney then. Oftentimes when I see applications, say a job application, you have language in there that, has to ask if you've ever been convicted of a felony or possession, or there's like a list of them and you have to check, and if you have financial aid, that sort of thing, students have to do that too. And they're provided in the application, and you check boxes. Is that language possible to transfer from, say, a job applications to an application for help with repair for a sidewalk, so that someone have to say that they reside primarily within the city limits, and that they, or their immediate family, for example, because I've seen, multiple people with their wife or their kid or whatever, that their primary residence and that no one in their immediate family was taking advantage of that program, so that we could assist in prioritizing our residents. Is that language possible?
I think what you would look at is having a box that you would check that says it's to be owner occupied, and have that under penalty of perjury, so that there's that element to it. If the city was inclined to have that, the issue of policing that, the follow-up with that, I think is the challenge that you would face. And
I
so
understand. I'm not associating policing it or adding to that. Just simply asking that question and making that possible. That wouldn't cost anything. We don't have to. I mean, if we're lied to, we're lied to. But we can at least ask and make it known that we are prioritizing residents as our goal. We could do that in my language.
from a legal standpoint, yes. The
Thank you.
policy issues, I'll leave to
I
the manager
appreciate
to
that.
speak
Thank
to
you.
on that.
So how many permits do we have on an annual basis for sidewalk repair? Do you know offhand? Anybody, just generally, is it 40 or 50?
In my time, less than 20.
So I
Less
mean,
than
on an
20.
average
Now,
year, we wouldn't even
those
get
are
close
the people
to
that
it.
are coming in and actually pulling the permit.
Yeah.
Now, there might be a little bit more sidewalk repairs going on that are going uninspected, and that's kind of the other benefit to this. It might be worth it coming down, because we don't charge you for the permit for a bad tree, for uprooting the sidewalk. We let you, we just want to know you're pulling a tree out and putting a tree back in, so it's not a financial thing on that one. It's just so we know what's going on. But this here, I mean, if you've got $1,000 worth of materials going into a sidewalk, it'd kind of be nice to have 500 back. So I think that helps draw people in to pull the permit, so then we do get the inspector out to make sure the sidewalk's been put in properly.
What does it hurt to add that language? What does it hurt?
Ms. Blair, it doesn't hurt any language, but if the first
I see.
40, say we have 40
That's all.
applicants that come in and they're not owner occupied, am I supposed to deny them the reimbursement then in case they want to come in on the 11th or 12th month?
Perhaps we set a
And-
timetable for that then, within 3 weeks or something of another application coming forward. I don't know, but if
Yeah.
you just stated that it doesn't hurt anything, so I'm just wondering why there's such a fight for it.
Well, I guess I'm confused because at our last council meeting, when we were discussing property taxes, you were willing to put the full shoulder on every property tax owner because the people renting these homes couldn't afford.
Because the
couldn't afford
calculation
anything,
was
but now- but now we're trying to fix-
$21.75
excuse me, I was
a month.
speaking. Now we're trying to do something for the owners, or not the owner and the occupant, and it's like you want to go a different route on us. I just don't see the benefit.
Well, let
of
me
the
help
ask.
you said you were confused, so I wanted to help clarify. I mentioned the calculation in the last session that if we put it on property owners versus the poorest among us who don't own property and are renting month by month, it was going to be $21.75 a month out of their pocket. If we went the route of a regressive tax and having everybody have to pay into a sales tax when we're already paying too much taxes as it is, it was going to be $21.35 a month. It was hardly a difference, and if you're going to pay it one way or another, what was the problem of having that burden put on those who could most afford it, those who own homes or multiple homes? If you're going to pay that either way. If you own a home, you're going to pay it in sales tax either way. This way, the burden wasn't on the poorest. It wasn't that complicated. You just
And
want to
Ms.
fight with
Ms.
me
Blair,
about
I'm
everything.
going to have to ask you to hold off on that conversation because we're getting
He
way
asked that
off
he was
track.
confused. I wanted to make sure I clarified
We're
that.
getting off track. So at this point, we're asking questions of staff. So is there any other questions?
I just want to know
So
why
I
everything
will open it
I
up to
do.
public hearing, and then we'll come back and we can let you discuss your point.
You just asked if there were more
is there-
questions.
Do you have a question?
Yes, I do have a question.
the
Why
question?
everything that I suggest we have to fight about? It's not anything that's going to hurt. I don't see the point.
Thank you for your question. Okay, so hold
Go
on.
ahead.
Is there any other questions from council?
No.
All right, at this time, I will open the public hearing. Ma'am,
Okay, the first issue that I have is.
please state your name.
Kristen Curcio, resident. I'm not going to list my address
That's
any
okay.
longer.
You don't have to.
Isn't this discrimination? If you start picking apart whose house you're going to fix and who lives in that, is that not discrimination? Because I own 4 houses, you're going to tell me that if I'm trying to fix my sidewalk in front of my house that I pay my taxes for, They're gonna tell me that you're gonna pick and choose who you're gonna be able to do? That's
a
my
good
first
point.
question.
Thank you.
The other issue is, I think that if the city, for me, I live in College Park. I was kind of one of those ones that barked about the way that they were putting in the trees, because we were in 2001 or whatever, and they were putting them in so fast. Sorry. So maybe it's time that the city takes, when it comes to this new growth that we have, somebody's going around and making sure that we're getting those trees planted, because eventually you're gonna be paying half the sidewalks anyways. So maybe it's time that we take a proactive approach to the development that we have in the city.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other public comment?
Good evening. Roman Benitez, 1966 Lacey Boulevard. I'm thrilled that the city council is talking about trees. As a matter of fact, when I was in high school, I was in the FFA, and I was a tree judge. So I can judge the heck out of trees, almonds, walnuts, you name it. Great time. And, my motto is saving the world one tree at a time. That's what I do. I love trees. Everywhere I go, all my properties that I've been in, I always plant trees. And my wife gets mad at me because just as they start giving fruit, bam, I got a PCS, right? And that's usually 3 years by the time you start getting fruit on your peaches, and it takes a little bit longer for citrus. And so it's always like, darn, we got to go because our trees are blooming, we're getting fruit. And so what that means is that in the past, I had no choice. I had to leave. And when the market was bad, I had no choice. I had to rent. But one thing that I did have a choice on was to be a responsible homeowner. And so as a responsible homeowner, I couldn't sell my house. I had a property. I had to keep it up. And so Ms. Blair's suggestion that perhaps only the people that own a house and live in the house should have preference, I think that's unhealthy. And the reason it's unhealthy is because you are treating people like me that don't have a choice, and you're penalizing me because I want to keep my property up and I want to do the responsible thing. Second point is, why do we have to pay $2,500 to help somebody take care of the trees? That's the owner's responsibility. I don't want to pay that. If it's my tree, then I'll take care of it. And I understand the liability, but the homeowner also has liability. Because if he doesn't take care of his trees, not only will the city get liable, but also the homeowner is liable. Regardless if he lives in it or not, he's still liable. And so I don't want to take my $2,500 and pay somebody else to be responsible for a tree that is there. And now we get to the question of, well, how the heck did the tree get there? Why was the tree put there? And my wife was an insurance adjuster for many years. And in one of my tours, we were in Monterey and she worked in Santa Cruz. And I believe it was the city of Soquel. And I don't know what the city council was thinking. I don't know what the planning commission was thinking. But pretty much the model was, you got the curb, you got about 2.5 to 3 feet of green space, and then you have about 3 feet of sidewalk, right? And so for whatever reason, they decided to put, thank you, honey, liquid ambers, right? And liquid amber is a semi-fast growing tree because it provides shade, it's sturdy, and it loves the humid weather. But it's a shallow rooted tree. And so what it started to do is it started to uproot the sidewalks, started to uproot the curbing and part of the asphalt. And so the city had to spend a lot of money to get rid of the trees, kind of like what we did on Fox Street. So my point is this: I don't want to pay $2,500 to have a landowner or a homeowner assist him with his responsibilities. That's their responsibility. And second of all, and I think what the real question is, well, what are we going to do in the future to mitigate that from happening? Again, the model was curb, green space, sidewalk. That makes no sense whatsoever. I can understand that you need a place to put utilities, and most of that green space is for irrigation. We don't need that here. And so as the city continues to grow, and I think the young lady back here mentioned it, what are we doing in the future? What are we doing in our ordinances? What are we putting in our codes to ensure that when developers come to town, they don't take the easy way out and they do it properly. You make your money on the size of your lots. If you want green space, then plan for it. If you want a tree, then research the type of tree that goes in that property, preferably something that's a slow-growing tree, a hardwood, that's going to be deep-rooted and it's going to go down. What you see around the properties here, I apologize, I'm almost done, is people are putting these Johnson ash. It's a fast-growing tree, but at the same time, it's a invasive tree and the roots are very invasive. So it doesn't matter where you put that tree, it's going to be invasive on your property. So, thank you. And keep saving the world one tree at a time.
Excuse me, can I ask you a question, sir?
Oh, yes, sir.
The deep-rooted trees,
Yes,
what type can go in there? Because I know a lot of people have shade.
yes. Unfortunately, deep-rooted trees are usually trees that take a long time to grow. And
Is there shade trees,
There is,
different types?
the ones that I know of, they're slow-growing. Your maples, your white oaks, your golden oaks. So the hardwood trees, walnuts are hardwood trees. So those are slow-growing, deep-rooted hardwood. But the problem is that people want instant shade.
Oh, yeah.
And when you get instant shade, the mulberries, the raywood ashes, they're quick growing, but they're hollow and their roots are very invasive.
So how about housing insurance? Like, the owners have housing insurance for something like that to
Yeah.
happen. Would they have that? Would that take care of that? Do you know anything about that?
As a homeowner and when I did have rental properties, I always had insurance.
Would that take care of in case a root came through and
No.
uplifted the side?
Well, it
Okay.
depends on the type of damage, but usually that type of damage is not covered.
Okay, thank you. I just
Thank you.
trying to fill information, see if I can find something.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other public comment?
Tom Reed, 1060 Prime, Livermore. How many dollars for this first year are we talking about?
We have a line item budget for $100,000.
$100,000, so.
Now, that's for city work plus anybody that might want reimbursement. So we will still use that to fix sidewalks on our own. We're just trying to stretch the buck a little further if somebody wanted to get in and fix their sidewalk.
Okay. I would like to make this statement. Besides a sidewalk being pushed up because of roots, being a liability to the homeowner, it's also a liability to that person walking down the street. Look around this room, and we're an aging population. We have a lot of older people in this city. They walk down the sidewalk. And I don't care who has the liability, you don't want that person injured. That becomes a serious liability to them. And they may get money to be reimbursed, but that may not fix the damage that's been done to their body. So just keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Ray Etchigo, 479 Blakely. When we moved into our neighborhood in the early 90s, our development has the park strip, which is the 4-foot strip between the curb and the sidewalk. And before we could move in our house, the developer had to put 2 trees because the city insisted on that. And they had a list of trees to go by. And of course, our whole neighborhood is full of trees that do nothing but lift up the sidewalk. So, of course, everybody blames the city for that. I think it's a nice gesture what you're trying to do to help ease the costs, because it never fails. The citizens always want to blame the city for everything. So if you can ease that somewhat, I think that's great. The other thing is, as a member of the Planning Commission, the ordinance has always been that new developments always had to have the park strip. The latest development that we passed does not have the park strip. The sidewalk is back up against the curb, and I think I was the happiest guy on the commission to see that, because I think that that's what we really need to go back to avoid this long term. Thank you.
Excuse me, sir. You said that the city wouldn't let you guys move in until after they put the trees in? Is that correct?
Correct.
Is that on record?
The city ordinance at that time, and I believe it's still there, if there's a park strip, there has to be 2 trees in front of your property planted before, if it's a brand-new home, before you can take residence.
Well, I'm not being facetious, but whose fault is that then?
Probably city council, but not you guys.
That's what I was going. I'm done. Okay.
Since you put it that way. Any other comments? Yes. Hello.
It's under my understanding that when the subdivisions are made, that the contractors have to pay a fee to the city for the sidewalks. So what happens to that if we're responsible as the homeowners? And then if our property line, the city claims the property when the contractors build the subdivision and make the contractors pay a fee for the future repairs. So.
Where are you reading from?
So the contractors have to pay a fee for the sidewalks to the city. So what happens to those fees?
You looking that up?
I'm looking up, I don't have an answer.
What's your name, ma'am?
Christina
Thank you.
Ortiz.
Thank you.
Frank, could you get her name and number so we can get back to her on this one? I need to look
And
into
then
the.
also, does that mean our property line goes all the way to the street? To the pay, like to the, you know?
Yes, your property line goes to the curb gutter.
To the gutter?
Yep. So, according to the state. You know,
The state.
the reason we brought this forth is one, we get a lot of residents that do want to say it's the city's fault. I bought a house, I didn't plant the tree. It was a mandate, the trees had to be there. You know, we're just trying to partner up to help it out a little bit.
I understand that.
Whether this council approves this ordinance or not, we'll still have $100,000 to fix on sidewalks, but it'll all go towards 100% adjacent to city properties. None of that will go into residential neighborhoods. With this, if somebody chooses to do it, they might get a couple square feet of sidewalk replaced, and we can help share the cost. If the city goes back to the old model of issuing the 45-day notices and just going in and leaning properties, that's on prevailing wage. A homeowner can fix a sidewalk without prevailing wage, I
Which
believe.
is great, but that goes back to the question of if there were fees that the contractors had to pay, and where is that? Because that's for future repairs, such as the trees that damage the sidewalks, right? I
Well,
mean,
I'll have to look at that. I don't believe there's a fee that the intent is for ongoing sidewalk maintenance. I don't know if you're talking about a PFMD or an LLMD. That'll happen if you have a district. The contractor has to maintain for the first year of the subdivision. Then after that, the LLMD or the PFMDs kick in, and then it's on the homeowners through the tax roll. But not everybody in the city is in one of those zones. So I'd have to look at what you're talking about, but there isn't a fund that I know of or impact fee that's charged for sidewalk repairs.
Yeah, that's why I was asking, where are you reading from? What's that information? Did you get that off the city website somewhere, or?
well, we're going back and forth, and a friend brought it up, so I decided to ask and bring it forth because he's usually up to par with all that stuff. So, and since he's not here and I am, I decided to ask.
No, we'll definitely look into that and get back to you. But so if Frank's over in the corner, if he could get a number for you, I'd be happy to call you back on that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Impact fees.
Okay, seeing none, we're gonna close the public hearing. Close the public hearing, bring it back to council for further discussion and a vote.
A quick question, Mayor, and City Manager, do we have any money, like, can ask for any money from the state, anything to assist us with this issue? Because I think it'd break us. Come close to it.
No, there's, as far as I know to date, there's no funding sources from the state that are going to help repair sidewalks. They did have some drought monies available a while back when the governor first declared the drought, but that was to clear landscape and put dryscapes in or artificial yards, but that program has since been suspended. But even as part of that program, sidewalk repairs wasn't part of the
So
program.
this will come out of our general fund?
These are general fund dollars for the sidewalk repairs. And keep in mind, we do have an ADA compliance report from '09 that identified, at the time, $3-point-something million in repairs. So that $200,000 a year, we're chipping away at that ADA list. We have to fix these things eventually. Yeah.
Thank you.
I might add here that I think this is a fair incentive that you've come up with. We just right now, homeowners don't have any reason to fix the curbing or the sidewalk that might have a 4-inch lift on it, which could be dangerous. So we're talking about public safety here too. We don't. In the past, we've had nothing, no incentives to do anything. So at least we have some things in order, which I think covers everything that you talked about, Ms. Blair. These are the homes within the city limits, period, whether they're rentals or owned homes. So I think that with the permits that are required, submitting the application, and the inspection pretty much covers it all. And I think we finally have, or people finally have a way to not bear all the burden. So,
Not only that, I think I think it's a good faith gesture to incentivize, like you're saying, people to come forward and start fixing their sidewalks. Not only that, I mean, this is something that's been ongoing for years. I mean, I was surprised when I came on the council that it was the owner's responsibility to fix those sidewalks. That was news to me. So this is, a good faith effort for us to do that, bring people forward that might not otherwise do so, and it'll keep us from having to go out there and do the repairs ourselves and then hanging a lien on their property for them to get them to pay us. Not only that, I think we're being even more than fair by allowing people to fix them themselves. Some cities require contractors to do the work, and once you get a contractor in there, that costs even more money. So people are willing to put their own sweat and hard work out there, and they can fix it on their own. And just as well, we inspect it before and after, so it meets the code. It's perfectly safe to do that. So I think we're doing what we can under very difficult circumstances to try to help. So I'm really pleased with what you guys have come up with here.
Oh, I just want, one thing is maybe a 1-2 punch is to also go back and, because I think we amended the tree ordinance, and we amended the number of trees required in the space. And don't quote me on it because I have to go back and just working off of memory. But I think, and that's something that maybe we should look at too, to make sure that we did cover it, and so when we do go back and those trees are planted, that we maybe try to remedy that situation where we don't plant those same types of trees. But I think we took those out. Those, I got a head nod back there. So
yeah,
I think
there's an approved tree list as well as a city public works standard for a tree well that gets the deep watering.
Yeah, that's something that should have happened years ago. Yeah. Thank you.
I would like to just follow up with a question. I want to make it very, very clear. I like the plan. I like the ordinance. That's not at all what I'm arguing. What I'm concerned about, someone came forward and said they own 4 homes. That's wonderful. I'm glad that they own homes here. However, at $100,000 at a limited fund, it could be limited if a family owns 4 and they just use the brother, sister, cousin and take advantage of this program. It could be as limited as 40 families just, taking advantage of a program. My concern is not that I like the program. It's that we're using public money, and I don't want to subsidize only some families because they know about it and the information, they were first up to get it because we let all of our friends and family know. And by the time the information gets out to the rest of the public, the money's gone. I'm saying, is there a way that we can at least prioritize or slow down or have even just a timetable, say from the time the application comes in, that no other person in the immediate family can also apply within, so many weeks or something. Some sort of safeguard to say that it's not our public money funding subsidies for only some families who are in on this information and it hasn't gotten out to everybody else yet.
I don't think that's the case, Ms. Blair. I think
We don't have a
that
safeguard
we c-
against
we
it.
c-
I'm not
we-
saying that's the point. I'm saying people will take
I think
advantage of it if we don't stop
advertise
it.
it on our website that the program's available and it's fair. I would think it would be fair to everybody.
Mm-hmm. I would
We're not
hope
going to
so,
be
too.
singling out any one family or anything. I think it's a great ordinance.
The
I
point
think
is
we
to
need-
safeguard against that
But
possibility.
then we also, if I may, real quick interject, is we have quite a few people in our town that are active duty military. And those people PCS and they do rent their houses out and then they come back. Well, my thing is how, I just don't understand how we're going to police that. And my thing is police it fairly and where it's not discriminatory in any way, shape, or form. So, and to pass that on to our city staff to be the cop per se. So, I hear what you're saying, and what the thing is trying to implement that policy would cause. It would cost. I think it would cost costing to the city, and to staff. So. I don't know. That's just my thoughts, you know, but I don't know if any other. I think it should be across the board to everybody if we're going to do it, or you know, not just pick and choose.
Well, I would say that a lot of times we can detour crime simply by, like, a stop sign. We don't have a police officer every single stop sign. We have a stop sign. It lets people know to stop, and on their own, people will do so. I'm suggesting some sort of language that would safeguard and say, and it's not against, and if you want to say, okay, then other people can rent, fine. My concern isn't that it's outside, renter. That's not actually my concern. I think active military should have the right to rent and come back. It's the concern that only some families will know about this before everybody else has gotten a chance to know about it. Right. And we have limited funds, and if it's first come, first serve, only some families, and it'll be limited amount of those families, they'll all know, and by the time everybody else knows, they won't have the opportunity to take advantage of that
I
program.
have a possible solution then, is we have that water bill that goes out every month. We have the sign out there. We have many different ways. What we just do is we just do, public awareness. We do education, and we let the people know. I mean, that's something that, I don't know if that's feasible. It's to me, it's, as long as it,
So we would definitely get the word out, and if this council wants to say, don't start this program till 2 months into the fiscal year to give everybody time to submit, that's fine.
Can we add language that says that if you apply and are accepted, no one in the immediate family, so like your if your spouse owns another property or whatever, so that you're not both, benefiting the same, you have to say you can't apply again for 6 months or something, just to give everybody else an opportunity before you, let the spouse and the brother and the grandmother all of that, so that you get a chance to, break that up a bit. Is it possible to do that?
Yeah, I suppose it's possible. It's set up for only one per household per year, so you can't come back to the well a second and third time. But,
I suggest we send a flyer out in the water bill, and then after maybe 2 months of doing that, then we can implement this policy
I concur.
as proposed.
Okay, so is there any more discussion? Let's have a vote. Do we have a vote?
Well, I'd like to make the motion of item 4-2 as proposed, but have 2 months of mail-outs in the city bills to let everybody know equally of this policy.
Did you come back for a second? Yeah, I heard you. 2
Okay.
months, and this will come back again for a second reading.
Okay.
All right, so there's a motion by Mr. Chittister to approve the resolution as written, with the caveat of waiting for 2 months before we actually implement, begin taking applications.
Second.
Okay, so there's a second by Mr. Brown. Mr. Chittister?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
No.
Mr. Neal?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the next item. This is 4-3, Public Nuisances, ordering weed abatement resolution 2018-26. This is also a public hearing.
So good evening again, Mayor and council members. This is another public hearing for weed abatement. So council back on June 5th adopted, as outlined in Ordinance 4.2 and Resolution 2018-26, to declare multiple properties within the city public nuisances. Since that meeting, the list has not changed. Nobody has become compliant to clear the public nuisance from their properties. So we have 15 APNs in Exhibit A that we'd like to get approval to go ahead and debate those properties and place a lien against the owners. Of the 15, 7 look to be residential, or 6 are residential, 1's an empty lot held by a private owner, and then there's 8 APNs that are owned by the Union Pacific Railroad. So we're here tonight to see if you will go ahead and let us take care of these public nuisance.
I have a quick question. It's time for question now, right?
Yes.
Sir. Is any of these, I'm going to use are any of these repeat offenders per se?
Yes. The rail is a
Okay.
repeat offender every year. The
Okay.
railroad.
And just curious, is there, the only thing we really do is go out and we take care of it and then we put a lien on the property. But there's no fines attached to this or anything of that nature for repeat people? I'm just curious.
I do not believe there's a fine, and if I'm going off memory, I do believe there's at least one address on there that's a repeat offender from last year.
Copy. Thank you.
Ain't no way we could put no teeth in there? You know, to make it where they don't just keep repeating, it's not gonna do nothing if you just, slap them on the hand in any kind of way.
So we are currently rewriting our weed abatement policy to bring to council at a future date. That does help us out to put more meat into it, and for the people that are continual offenders, that we may not have to come back. And because right now, to get to this point, it's months of noticing, and first notice, second notice, it takes a lot of staff time. So we're coming forth with a new policy that makes it easier to maintain it and put the teeth in it as you speak of.
And this
We're not
is-
there yet, but we'll be there for next
A lot
year.
of this is urban blight, but it's also fire issues
hazard.
because of,
We
we've
had-
got the 4th coming up.
We had 2 fires along the rail last year from sparks off the track off into the brush next to the track.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? This is a public hearing. We'll open the item up for discussion. Is there anyone that would like to come forward and make comment? Hearing none, close the public hearing. Bring it back to council for discussion and a vote. Make a motion?
Make a motion to approve 4.3, ordering weed abatement, resolution 2018, TAC 26 as written.
I concur.
We have a motion by Mr. Brown and a second by Mr. Neal to approve the item as written. Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Neal?
Aye.
Mr. Chittister?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Motion is passed. Thank you. All right, we'll now move on to new business, Section 5. This is item 5-1, agreement between the City of Lemoore, Lemoore Youth Soccer League, Lemoore Youth Softball Association for the use of Lemoore Youth Sports Complex. Mr. Glick.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. Tonight, we're going to talk about agreements with the City of Lemoore, the Lemoore Soccer League, and the Lemoore Softball League for the use of the Lemoore Youth Sports Complex. Over the past few months, actually since January, the City of Lemoore has been meeting with the Lemoore Youth Sports Foundation. We've been meeting, collaborating, and I feel like we've built a partnership. I'm very excited about this. In my previous position, I managed a sports park, and I'm just really, really excited personally for the opportunity for the City of Lemoore. I'm going to briefly talk about the history. There's some folks that are sitting behind me. They're going to talk more in depth about the history, and they should be the ones speaking about the history because they are actually there. We actually have 2 members of the original Youth Sports Foundation that are still active today. That's John and Leah, and they're in the audience. The Youth Sports Foundation was formed in 1995 by a group of parents who wanted to provide an opportunity for children in the City of Lemoore to provide athletic opportunities. And they got together with city representatives, former Parks and Rec Director Tom Hernandez, who's retired, and former City Manager Alan Goodman. They got together, they spoke, they had several meetings, and in 1995 they came to an agreement with the City of Lemoore, and they created a 40-year lease with the City of Lemoore to lease the piece of property, which everybody know where that property is located. So immediately following the meeting, the Lemoore Youth Sports Foundation did something extraordinary. They were able to get volunteers from all walks of life, the ag community. They got financial help. They had administrative help. It was literally unbelievable what they did. And managing a sports park in my previous position and having several contractors build out a sports park, I really understand what they did, and I think it's quite incredible that this was built by volunteers. The thing that really threw me back was volunteers laid 72,000 feet of pipe to create irrigation for this area, and I just think that's amazing. So over a 2-year period, they built out this youth sports complex. And in August 23rd of 1997, they had their first inaugural event. It was the Lemoore Soccer Festival. And since that time, the Lemoore Youth Sports Foundation is providing opportunities for youth in this community. For a number of years, they've created thousands of opportunities for youth. And their work really needs to be acknowledged at some point. We plan on doing that later next month. So we're going to fast forward to 2018, and in January we started meeting with Lemoore Youth Sports Foundation. We talked about backgrounds. I talked about my background. We had recreation staff that were involved in this as well. This is really this was not one person. It was a lot of city staff people involved, the foundation board involved, and the city started talking about, hey, what if the city took over this sports park, and then we got to know each other. We began to trust each other, and we built this collaboration. So on March 22nd, 2018, Lemoore Youth Sports Foundation voted 8-0 to terminate the existing agreement and turn the facility over to the City of Lemoore, pending approval agreements between LYSA and LYSO and the city were met. So that happened. So a quick timeline. If approved, the official turnover date would be Monday, July 2nd, 2018, where the foundation would officially hand over keys. And we plan on having a sports park re-grand opening, if approved, on Saturday, July 14th, 2018. And details will come. We still have a few more Sports Foundation meetings to work out those details. So something that's I'm very grateful for what the foundation is doing. They're making sure that the sports park is left in good condition. They've done quite a bit. I kind of bullet pointed some items out. And just some highlights of the LYSA and LYSL agreement. It's a 5-year agreement with a 5-year option. Both groups will pay a $3,500 fee to the city to help subsidize the cost of maintenance. There's going to be an annual in-kind contribution by both groups to help the city with maintenance, specifically with facility setup. So the city doesn't have to do facility setup, they'll do their facility setup. And we're just pretty much mowing the turf and taking care of the irrigation, similar to what I've been able to work out in the past. And they get 3 tournaments or league activities per year, and the facility will have public access. And one thing that's in the contract is that the facility will remain a youth athletic field complex, meaning we will not schedule adult athletic play at this complex. It will remain a youth athletic field complex. So with that said, the staff recommendation recommends City Council terminate the ground lease and sports complex agreement and approve the 5-year lease agreements with the city, LYSA, and LYSL for the use of the Lemoore Sports Park for practices, games, leagues, activities, and tournaments during specified days and times. Recommend granting the city manager authority to sign the agreement on behalf of the city of Lemoore.
Thank you. Any questions?
I just have one quick question. You go ahead. Yeah. How many hours would you say that was spent into putting this together between you and staff?
We had several meetings, numerous text messages, emails flying back and forth, a lot of time. So a lot of time.
And how many people would you say worked on it together?
My recreation staff, myself, Sheila Taylor, Juan Cuevas, Ray Greenlee, and the majority of the board is sitting in that row back there. So, yeah.
I just wanted to commend you and your staff and say that's what makes me proud to represent Lemoore. It's all of those folks coming together, those countless hours volunteering time to do something positive for the youth in our community. And I really appreciate that for you and for everyone here. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I would like to say, that's phenomenal what you guys are doing. When it comes to kids, you know, I know grown-ups like to play too and keep in shape as well, but I like the way you put that in there. This is about the kids. And so when it comes to the kids, I really, that caught me right there, what you said, you know, that the kids have their day, their heyday. So thank you so much for all the work, you guys as well. I'm pointing at all you guys. I don't know who all you are, but thank you guys for all what you guys are doing. Thank you.
Any questions?
I had one comment to add. You know, Jason highlighted the agreements, the agreement highlights for the smooth transition, but I think it goes without saying, the foundation, upon turning it over, slurry sealed the whole parking lot, restriped it, replaced 45 sprinkler heads, upgraded all the light fixtures to LED lighting, purchased new refrigerator, freezer, and ice machine, created signage for the fields, and are creating a recognition sign. That's very honorable to leave us in such good shape. It's appreciated.
Mr. Olson, I'll add to that. Some of those things have been done already, and some are still under consideration. So.
Thank you. Okay, is there any public comment? I understand there's some folks from the association, foundation that would like to come forward.
I'll lower this down because of Jason. I'm John Hudson. I'm Vice President of the Foundation, original member. About 25 years ago, I came in front of the council. Somebody came to me and said, there's a piece of land there, we would like it for softball and soccer. And we sort of threw Title IX and all that because you have a baseball park and there was nothing for the girls softball, and of course soccer is both girls and boys. So we came to an agreement with Tom Hernandez and Alan Goodman. We made a plan and they put us on to come here. With much arguing and back and forth with the council, we went on a 3-2 vote. What you have out there is about $2.5 million of blood, sweat, tears, and cash that we all raised to make that. In modern day terms, you all know it's not $2.5 million. The opportunity now is to expand the use of the facility. 23 years ago, when we had the Lemoore Youth Soccer Festival, the first one, which has been an annual event and will be another one this year, we wore the shirt. It's got holes in it. I've still got the original shirt. I'm proud to wear it here because it says what we're about, building dreams. We build dreams for kids. So going forward, we like the agreements. The foundation would be happy to eventually sign off to the city the lease on the complex based on a few factors, and the few factors were that both the soccer board and the softball board were very happy with the agreement, that it works for them because they're the kids that started it. The main thing we want is it to remain a youth facility. You've all seen what adults can do to facilities. They ruin them and they're not good for the kids and not as safe. But I think there was an opportunity with a dirt field that grew only half the corn that the farmer planted, and everybody laughed. How come this guy doesn't know what he's doing? He can't grow a whole field. Let me tell you, all the farmers that helped build the sports complex said, it's amazing he got stuff to grow on that. But we have 30 acres of grass that's been good for 23 years. Still looks good, still one of the best parks ever. Now is the opportunity to expand this, to expand the youth for the youth. So if we can get everything done right and get this turned over, I think it's a fabulous opportunity right now. And I'm proud to have been part of this for 23, 25 years, and all this going along. And I'm proud for the city. We deserve a place like this. We've got one of the best private complexes, which will eventually be a city public complex, but one of the best complexes in the area, and everybody's jealous. So to keep it going the way it is, with Jason's guidance, I think he's going to expand it and bring other events in, all youth. It's good for the city. So I thank you for the time. I thank the prior council that had the forethought to agree to this. By the way, they had to face 100 kids in uniforms when they walked into the meeting that night. They go, what's going on? I talked to Ed Martin tonight, and we remembered the vote. So we remember what they went through, and they come, what are all these people doing here? We're on the agenda. We want a complex. The city of Lemoore helped us get the complex. We were partners then. We'll be partners now. And I really just thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Need to come forward and make comment. That it? Okay.
So I'm not good at this. My name's Guy Brodigan, and I happen to be the president of the foundation of the past 4 or 5 months. That's what happens when you miss the annual meeting, I guess. Now I know. These guys have touched on it all. It's been magnificent working with Jason, and when we first got in touch with one another at the beginning of the year, I called some folks in Visalia with what he did over there, and it was absolutely amazing. Those of you who know me well, Mr. Chedister, Mr. Matrigo, Nate, this is very near and dear to my heart. I ask that it remain for the kids solely, period. And I think Jason will do an amazing job lighting fields that for softball that were intended to be lit, and some other things, including maybe some Little League facilities that would be nice for them. But anyways, I just would like a handshake across the table. When you guys leave your seats and other people run for office that we choose to elect, that you guys send a note to them letting them know how this came to be and why it needs to be remembered for the youth. And that's my only concern. And that comes soccer and softball first, and everything else after 17 years can follow. Thank you guys for doing what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comment? Okay, seeing none, bring it back to council.
Well, I will have to say, Guy coached my kids years ago. I coached my 4 youngest on the same 5 and under team 13 years ago, and I have a 2-year-old granddaughter that's probably going to play in about 3 years that will probably play on those same fields. So it's dear to my heart as well because it has built character. It has done some great things for my kids to continue to play soccer even in college. So I'm happy to know that Jason and the staff of the associations for the soccer and the softball have got together, and I think it's a great thing for our city. I really do.
Comments?
I have a comment. I really appreciate the enthusiasm, and even after all this time, look at all the enthusiasm that's still here. That's amazing. I agree. I just want to make it known that I think we should strike now is a good time to start looking for the future, start looking at ways that we might expand that area for our youth. I am fully supportive of that, and so I hope going forward the rest of the council members would also like to see the same vision and moving forward that way. So.
Yep. Thank you. I have a question. Who are the 2 that voted against that?
He
knows my name.
Bobby Lee.
Oh.
And the guy that had the radiator shop, one of the John Lewis.
I was just being facetious, but thank
the
you
mayor
for-
at that time was related to one of our board members, so we were okay. We had the third.
Okay. That's good. Thank you. You guys know how to work us, don't you? Bringing in the kids, it's always a good way to get things done.
Way to do it.
Thank you. Thank you for everything that you've done. I know, Mr. Hodson, you've been the face of youth soccer for many, many years, so I appreciate all that you've done, and we just hope that we can carry on that legacy. Thank you.
like to, we can make motion
I'll second.
Okay, so there's a motion by,
to make the agreement between the City of Lemoore and Lemoore Youth Soccer League, approve as written.
okay,
And I'll second.
so there's a motion by Mr. Brown and a second by Ms. Blair. Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Chedister?
Aye.
Mr. Neal?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Thank you. All right, so we'll go to item 5-2. This is a contract for professional services with Teeter for new police dispatch modular building and site improvement. Spirit.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm here before you this evening to talk about what we hope will be a new dispatch facility for the City of Lemoore. For several years, the City of Lemoore has been engaging in conversations to try to bring public safety dispatch to our city. For several years, that conversation involved what we hoped would be a regional dispatch facility with all of the local public safety agencies. After months and months of trying to make that pencil out, both fiscally and operationally, several local agencies pulled out. That left a very few of us. We continued to work through that process for several additional months, and at the conclusion, we all decided that it was not in the best interest of all of the parties because it was not fiscally, operationally sound. So the City of Lemoore has been researching other options to help bring those services back to the City of Lemoore. And as we grow and as our population increases, our hope is that we can bring those types of services to our community. So we have before you tonight a contract with Teeter. They're a local architecture firm that has done a lot of work for government agencies in our area that have experience doing public safety facilities. They've recently done a facility that isn't public safety, but for the Human Services Agency for Kings County, and they're actually doing some work for the Corcoran City currently for their new police department. And so we come before you tonight with what we hope will be an approved contract to allow them to help us work through the schematic design development, and construction document phase, which will get us to the bidding portion. And then following that, they'll also help us with construction administration once it is formally bid based on California Contract Code. And what it'll allow us to do is have a professional partner in helping us move forward with building the facility. The proposal right now is to build the facility on the current PD lot. So where the grass is just directly west of the current facility, the hope is to build about 3,500 square feet. It will serve as the dispatch facility, but it will also house records. So as our PD grows, the current facility is a little too small for their needs, and so it will allow the records department to have their own space with a new public lobby, and will also provide a space for dispatchers. I'm trying to think of all the other important things I need to discuss tonight. So we have a proposal from the consultant. Their total fee estimate right now is roughly $209,000. That takes us all the way through construction. Their fee structure is based on cost per construction. So as we move through this process, if that construction cost increases, so too could their contract. But their prices have been very fair. We received $939,000 from the state of California, I believe in 2016, excuse me. It was, I don't want to call it a grant because there weren't really any requirements other than that we use it to fund a dispatch facility. Later that same year, actually I think it was 2017, we went before the redevelopment agency and asked to defease a bond so that we could get some more money to help us with the construction of this facility, and that was another $855,000. So we have well over $1.5 million that we have dedicated to help us build this facility, as well as local impact fees. We also have had this particular project in the capital improvement plan for the last several years. It's been approved by council. And as you'll recall, as we started working through this process and we learned that regional dispatch probably wasn't going to happen, we returned $3 million to the general fund reserve, knowing we wouldn't probably need it for this project. So our total budget right now is roughly between $3.2 and $3.5 million. The cost estimates right now for that project are coming in just slightly over target, but we are confident that we're going to be able to get a project to you that will meet our needs for the community and will hopefully come in on budget.
I have a
Thank you. Question?
quick question. That costing of the project estimate of $3.78 million, does that include all the equipment that goes in that facility?
It does.
So, I mean, it's a turnkey facility.
Yes, the number is a turnkey number,
Beautiful.
and it's based on construction cost estimates at
So
the
that's
time, and it
that's
also
radios
includes,
and the whole 9 yards, antenna.
it also includes contingency. So obviously, if we don't have anything happen during construction, which very rarely happens, but let's assume it doesn't, we would dip into that, and we could hopefully come in under budget. And there'll be a comprehensive team between the architect and city staff and experts that will help us through that construction process.
Okay, was it 2016? Was it 2016? You guys got money?
Yeah, $939,000 from the state, and that was actually something that ChrisCom helped lobby for. And it was the city of Lemoore, the city of Corcoran, and Chief, was it the city of Avenel as well? The three agencies went together and lobbied the state for some funds, and those are actually the funds that Corcoran's using.
Funds.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to take some parking away from?
I think we actually add parking because we're going to redesign the parking lot. One of the other things that's important to mention is that right now there is not a secured parking lot for PD staff. And what it will give us is a secured parking area. It's going to change the layout of the parking lot and give us, I think, 1 to 2 extra stalls.
Will the building be 2-story then?
No, single story.
Single story.
There'll be a breezeway between the current building and the new building that will allow for new public access into the new public records area. It's going to allow the chief to kind of change the way he operates in the existing building to make it more user-friendly for his officers as far as interviewing suspects and things of that nature, make a more secured area, and then make a more public area.
Based upon the original drawings, do we have I know there's going to be give or take, but any from start to finish on project, how long will it take to complete the project, estimated once the project started?
There is actually there's actually a project timeline in the proposal that was provided to you, and let me find that for you. So it'll roughly, 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, it's going to take us roughly 8 months to get us through the bidding process. And then construction administration is listed at 6 months, but I think that's a pretty aggressive timeline. Chief's a perpetual optimist. He's telling me right now, we can do it. So that's the professional recommendation. So we were going to try our hardest to hold him to it, but you'll notice it says estimated in parentheses.
Is there going to be any new infrastructure on streets?
It will not affect the streets. No, there might be some modifications to the driveway approaches. I'm not 100% sure. We haven't gotten quite that far when we changed the parking lot layout, but no
entrance and exits out, none of that.
Yeah.
It will maintain the current ingress and egress, I believe. We haven't actually gotten that far into the design. We've talked about it conceptually, but it shouldn't change the ingress and egress areas.
Okay, thank you.
Cool.
I just have a follow-up question. Go ahead. First of all, I'm wholeheartedly behind this. I love new infrastructure. Again, we're looking for the future growth of the city. This is wonderful. I'm so happy to see this finally coming. Yay. But the other question I had, though, is it just has to do with item on page 102, everybody, on the agreement. Item 4 of independent contractor status. Again, that's on the bottom of page 102. And because the consultant and its subcontractors are who is doing the build, and later on it states that in item 6 down below, identity of subcontractors and subconsultants, no subcontractors shall be used. My only question or concern would be in this project, because this is a really big project, we're going to have a lot of people out there. What safeguards we have to ensure that local folks may be having an opportunity to apply or participate in some of that new job growth, because anytime you have an infrastructure project and building, it's an opportunity to hire local workers, and I know our community is always asking for job growth and jobs, and I'm just wondering, with those two items, are we shut out from understanding if we have locals in the hiring process, or are we completely hands off of that?
No, this contract is for them to get the construction documents done, and then we're going to bid the project like you would any other capital project. Okay. And our purchasing policy comes into play at that point. Okay. And so local vendors are given a 5% preference, I believe. And so if we have anybody that's local that's within 5%, then we can award the contract to the local vendor based on their locality. But that purely is a 93245 zip code.
Okay, thank you. Mm-hmm. So it's out there.
To clarify that, yeah, it's 5% if they're within city limits. If they're within the area code but outside the city limits, then it's 3%.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank you.
Okay, is there any public comment at this time on this item? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to council for discussion and a vote.
Chief, is this of your approval?
Absolutely.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. That's all I have.
I appreciate staff's ability to go through this. I know when we started out, this is a long time coming, this project. We're almost there to the finish line. I really appreciate all the hard work and the just considering on how to reduce some of the costs. This modular design, construction design, I guess that's something that's kind of been going on lately. I understand the city of Corcoran is building a new police department. They're using the same method, which certainly helps us when it comes to, because it is a public works project, having to pay that prevailing wage, which I have a personal opinion on. I think it really ends up hurting us locally when we have to pay that, and I think in the long run it just really reduces the amount of work that workers have around here, so it takes away local control. But I think this is certainly a way that we can, you know, help that relieve those costs. So thank you very much for all you guys did on that.
So can I?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion
I want
on
to make a
5-2.
comment.
Excuse me?
I had a comment still.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I just wanted to make it clear what the modular design means. That just means that the construction can take place outside of the area, so perhaps another state even, and then brought in and placed here. And so when Mr. Mayor was talking about prevailing wage, he's really saying a way to subvert paying local wages and allowing for and being praising a modular design that would be possibly built from outside the area. I specifically was asking if we have safeguards to see if there will be in the bidding process
I understand
a
that.
way to keep it local. And you
Understand
stated
that.
that we have a priority, so I'm happy to hear that.
I understand that.
Well, go ahead. Let me go ahead and get everybody clear.
Yeah.
Good, okay. 5-2, I motion to approve the modular building and site improvement.
I'll second it.
So we have a motion by Mr. Neal and a second by Mr. Chedister to approve this item. Mr. Neal?
Aye.
Mr. Chedister?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
I need a moment to think. Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move to
Thank you,
item
Michelle.
5-4. This is the intention to levy and collect the annual assessments within Landscape and Lighting Maintenance District Number 1, Zones 1 through 13, Resolution 1835, and Public Facilities Maintenance District 1. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped 5-3. Item 5-3 is appointment of voting delegate to League of California Cities Annual Conference. Ms. Benegas.
Good evening, Mayor, Council members. The 2018 League of California Cities Annual Conference is scheduled for Wednesday, September 12th through Friday, September 14th in Long Beach. On Friday, there's an annual business meeting. This is where the membership takes action on legislative and policy issues. While it's not required to send a council member, if you choose to, there is a minimum one-day registration for a Friday conference or to attend that conference. Last year, Holly Blair attended the conference and attended the annual meeting. It is estimated at approximately $1,500 for registration and travel to this conference. In the recently adopted budget, we did have $4,000 in the City Council training. It is recommended that City Council appoint a voting delegate and an alternate for the League of California Cities Annual Conference in September.
Any questions from the council?
Well, I've already had an opportunity to attend, so I'm happy to pass the baton, so to speak, to someone else to have that opportunity.
Is there anyone else that would like to go?
Nobody left?
That is, I'll go.
Okay, so
That's,
Mr. Brown?
yeah.
Is
I'll
there
nom-
any?
I'll
Put my
nomin-
name in the hat
Let-
and see what
let's
happens.
see
I'll
if we have
nominate
any
Dave
public-
Brown.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any public comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, we'll bring it back to discussion. Mr. Chedister?
I'll nominate Dave Brown. You haven't been before, have you?
No.
Okay.
I've been other city, League of City things, but not.
Right. Okay.
I second it.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Chedister and a second by Mr. Neal to have Mr. Brown attend as our voting delegate at the California League of California Cities Annual Conference. Mr. Chedister?
Aye.
Mr. Neal?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Thank you. Now we will go to item 5-4, intention to levy and collect annual assessments within Landscape and Lighting Maintenance District Number
Excuse
1.
me, Mr. Mayor,
Those one.
may I ask a question? We also, I believe we're supposed to appoint an alternate as well before we
Yeah.
move on. Before we moved on to the next item.
Would we like to,
It's optional, but it's probably a good idea.
is there someone that wants to be the alternate?
I'll be the alternate if he can.
If we can add that to the motion, then I concur to add
I concur.
Mr. Neal.
That's fine.
Okay,
As the
so
alternate.
Mr. Brown will be the
Primary.
a primary appointed delegate, and Mr. Neal will be the alternate if necessary. So we need to vote again. So Mr. Chedister?
Aye.
Mr. Neal?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Thank you. Now we'll go to 5-4. All right. Intention to levy and collect the annual assessments within Landscaping and Lighting Maintenance District Number 1, Zones 1 through 13. It's Resolution 1835, and Public Facilities Maintenance District Number 1, Zones 1 through 8, and that is Resolution 18-36. Mr. Rivera.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of City Council. Each year, the city is required to conduct an engineering study for all of the current LLMDs and PFMD districts in order to document the levy that is submitted to the county assessors each year for property tax collection. As you have noticed in this report, 4 LMD districts increased slightly. This was due to the built-in inflator or if their maximum assessment was not maximized. The remaining districts, of course, did not increase due to the failed hearings that occurred over the last 2 public hearings. All of the PFMDs increased slightly. These districts have built-in inflators. Tonight, we ask the council approve Resolution 218-35 and allow us to set up a public hearing for August 7th, 2018. Do you have any questions?
I had one follow-up question, just because we went through these discussions previously. When we send out the notice, will we be changing any of the way that the layout is to make it clear more at a monthly basis?
These are for existing LMDs and PFMDs, so it's a different process.
Okay.
There won't be a vote.
There won't be a
It's
vote.
already built in.
I don't necessarily mean but the notice, though, because when we notify our community members and we start out with a yearly number, that shocks a lot of our community and it causes a lot of confusion. It helps to break down that number in a monthly way, because that's how most of our community is budgeting. And whether or not they're voting or not, just getting that information out to our community, is there a way that we can make sure that we get that information in that sort of clarity for our community?
I'm sure we can. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
And thank
How
you
are
for all
the
the work.
property owners notified? Are they notified just when they get their tax bill? Or do they actually get something in advance that says, hey, this was passed and this is part of you living here and it will be going up X amount?
I believe it hits their
yeah.
tax roll,
Yeah.
but we've asked staff to come up with a website specifically around the LLMDs at the start of the fiscal year, where they can just click onto their zone and see what we spent, what the balances are, so they can see where the money's going, and we can definitely add the rates for 18-19 to show the annual increase to their tax.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, is there any comment in public on this matter? All right, seeing none, we'll bring it back to council for a vote here.
Make a motion to approve 5-4 as written.
Second.
So there's a motion by Mr. Brown and a second by Mr. Neal to approve item 5-4 as written. Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Neal?
Aye.
Mr. Chedister?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Motion is passed.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go ahead and move to Section 6, City Council Reports and Requests. Ms. Blair?
Yes, I have 3 comments. I had a question by a community member, and I believe that I texted you. I just want Mr. Nathan. I wanted to ask where the study session video was and if it would be posted online. I had a number of questions about it, so we had people asking if they would be able to view that as well, because that wasn't posted.
I do not believe that we recorded the study session.
I saw it recording when I walked up
It
here.
was recording? Okay, I don't know if it took.
I saw it. Because I was going to set up my phone otherwise, because I cared about the budget questions.
So I have Marissa looking into it, so.
Okay.
I didn't get an answer back today.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to
It'll
follow
come.
up with that.
If we
then.
have it, we'll put it on. And
I saw it recording, so I'm sure you guys have it. The other question then, I did have two, actually. People come to me and ask about comments regarding, on Facebook, comments that are made during like the council comment section time. I know we brought this up before. I've been asked by community members if their comments could be taken into consideration during the council. And I realize that would be hard to track for, staff time, but if it's only one or two comments that are coming in, and I know that this has been something that more than one, community member has asked to be able to do, I think we're shutting out a number of folks who don't come because either they're at home with loved ones, they're caring for maybe an aging grandparent, or maybe they have young children at home. They want to participate and make comments. Is there a way that we can make it, if not on the fly, at least make it an easier way than just, please contact the city clerk? Can we maybe provide a link, something that's easier?
Yeah, so I've talked to these residents, or some of these residents as well. We've had some dialogue. If there's something that they want to comment about that's specifically on the agenda, they can always email it ahead of time to the city clerk, and it can be read into the record. We did post a disclaimer that we wouldn't be answering during live broadcasts, because the issue with that is normally the directors that are here partaking in the meeting are the ones that give the responses to those questions. So we have in the past responded to those questions like we do, and we'll say we'll get back to you. We do go back in the next day or two and look at the questions that are posed, and we will answer them. But to answer them, the request was to answer them live during the meeting, and I don't have the staff to do that, and I can't expect my directors to be here tracking all the comments going on during the meeting. They need to participate. So one of the things, we did this live broadcast so people could get informed. The intent wasn't to actually have a two-way dialogue during the meeting as it was live. So we can absolutely, and we have gone back and answered questions by the close of the week from council meetings, and we can continue to do that.
So I had a suggestion that might help bridge some of the issue. Perhaps we could allow for, just as we allow for public comment, allow for a 5-minute time where any comments that were submitted either at that time or ahead of time, we could say, if you submit it before the council started, we'll set aside 5 minutes to read whatever comments came in first within those 5 minutes, or something along those lines, so that at least we can set that aside, not waste any more than that amount of time. We could make that rubric known, but we're not completely shutting off that conversation, because I think that question is going to continue to be asked the more widespread that it is on social media. So if we laid out a rubric now or an outline now saying if you have comments, they'll be answered at X amount of time, or they would be stated at X amount of time. I just think going forward we might want to come up with some solution other than just shutting off that conversation.
Is that consensus from consensus?
I need some more. I'd like to ask the city attorney a question about that. What is the existing state of the law for this kind of thing? I'm sure other cities have encountered this.
Mayor and council, obviously with technology evolving as rapidly as it is, you have a number of different ways that cities have gone about. Some have the websites used as an opportunity to have input, and then have that into the record either by way of the clerk taking, not necessarily reading into the record, but having the written comments like a letter that you would put into the record that came in. Other communities have not been as engaged in online activity. Obviously, there is an issue when you have online comments that are removed from the location of the meeting. They don't have the opportunity for the immediate exchange. They don't have the context, and it creates some dynamics there that can, I think, create a very odd record, and the records are where the basis of lawsuits come. So councils have been cautious in terms of how they've gone about expanding the opportunity for the online comments, but they do it.
Perhaps just a letter then of like a summary or a recap that could be provided. I'm just looking for a solution because I know that it's just going to continue to come up.
Oh, I have a question, if I may, because I need clarification on really what you're wanting to do, because maybe I'm not just grasping it. But, so, we're doing this live on Facebook, and if somebody wants to make a comment.
Well, they're asking questions
No,
as they're coming in.
if I may, if they're wanting to make a comment or a question, or just state something or a question that's live on Facebook, you're wanting that to be brought to council and read into the record at that time?
Not necessarily. I'm asking for us to have a greater discussion. Perhaps maybe staff needs time to look into it, or what other cities are doing. I'm saying that I think because I'm now getting multiple questions and it's only going to continue.
Well, that's fine.
We have folks that, they want to ask comments at the time. If that's not feasible, is there a way that we can allow for those comments, allow for citizens to have a pathway to entering comments, perhaps entering comments on the website, perhaps entering comments somewhere else, just so that they have a platform in which to express those and us have a say in how they do that.
I think what we need to do, okay, because this is city council reports time. This is not an agendized item. We shouldn't probably be discussing it.
Okay.
If we decide that we want to discuss it, I guess this is the time that we can,
I
by
just need
consensus.
clarification so I could make, because she was asking consensus.
Okay.
Council, and at this point in time, I had a question on what really was being wanted, what was the need? So, I apologize for
That's okay.
but I just wanted to clarify myself, so.
I guess
that's all I had.
my question, what I would hope for with that, perhaps we set aside either study time or ask staff to look into what other cities are doing, so that we have a say in a long-term solution, in a way forward that allows for those comments to be placed somewhere, some platform, however we decide. As I have no say in that. I'm just saying that we have community members, more than one, asking to have comments heard, and I think we need to provide some platform for that. And as a council, or let that staff figure something out, we should come up with something. And I don't know what that would be.
Do we have consensus, I guess, is the simple way to do this, to bring this for further discussion as an agendized item?
Or a study session even, just to talk about it.
Do we have consensus?
I concur, we look at it at another time.
Yeah.
So can we say study session then, and just talk about what it all entails in the first place? So
I'm okay with that.
Okay. Do we have consensus? There's Mr. Neal, Mr. Chedister?
Yes.
And Ms. Blair. All right, we can bring it back as a study session item. at
And
some point.
then the last thing, and I don't know if I'll need any consensus for that, is that last Wednesday I traveled to Sacramento, where I had the distinct pleasure of being, I believe, the only elected in the entire county to be present at a unity event on S Street in Sacramento, where I met with state electeds. I talked with Secretary of State Alex Padilla, State Board of Equalization Chair Fiona Ma, and State Controller Betty Yee. I also saw Gavin Newsom and Jerry Brown give a speech, and I also had an opportunity to speak privately with Eric Bauman. And so these are all leaders in Sacramento, and I'm asking for your help. I'm saying I'm happy to be, even in my personal life, having the opportunity to be at these events, and I'm there. But I would like the opportunity to, if I'm in the room, how do I best represent the city? And because if I'm successful in that, then we're all successful in that. And this isn't to have an ego or anything. I'm just saying I'm there. It's an opportunity. There's somebody from our council who's in that room and has an opportunity to say something about our dispatch center, for example, which I'm very supportive of. And I want to help in some way add to that. If we have additional infrastructure for the youth complex, for example, and I'm in a room that I can casually talk about that and hopefully lift up our city at a state level. And so I'm offering this different way. I travel to Sacramento quite often. I would like to invite other council members to please join me. Obviously, only one at a time could come. But these are on my own time. But if I have those, that's politics, right? Who you know, talk to. If I have an opportunity to have lunch with somebody important, I would like another council member with me. Let's talk about our city. Let's uplift our city at that level. And so I don't know if that I necessarily need consensus, but it's an invitation. I would like others to join me when I have those invitations.
Are you attending this as nonpartisan, not affiliated with any other organization when you go to Sacramento?
In some cases, yes. In some cases, no.
Okay.
So in this case, I was given this invitation in a partisan way, but it was my own time. But a lot of times I stop in and have lunch or meet with people in their office as friends. That is not a partisan. It is not any sort of agenda. It's to talk about how the valley is and what it's like. If there's not a whole lot of folks from the valley up there, I get an opportunity to say, look, water is important, infrastructure is important, ag is important. I get an opportunity to say those things, and I'm inviting others to join me.
Okay.
So I asked council, in order for somebody to represent the city in that manner, council would have to pass an ordinance and or a resolution for that to take place.
Okay, well, I'm going up there one way or another, so.
You're going up there, but you're not representing the city of Lemoore per se as for council, because council works, and I apologize.
That's certainly the case, but I assure you that those who know me know that I'm a council member, so it doesn't have to be an official capacity to go up and let's have lunch, let's meet, talk to
Can we
people.
talk about it in closed session, or does it have to be a study session item?
Mayor and council, this discussion does not fall within the guidelines for closed session. Yeah. Council
If you don't want to come, that's fine. The invitation's there.
Okay, so you're not asking for concurrence, or you're just putting the information out?
That's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brown?
I'll keep it quick. The only thing I got is we got a Groundwater Sustainment Act meeting Thursday at 5:30 here. If you want to learn about that, it's really exciting. No, it is. I enjoy it. We're getting closer to hopefully funding our groundwater sustainment plan, and that's more for many different irrigation districts, Kings County and City of Lemoore. What we're working at is basically bottom line up front. What that does is the land subsides because of water tables, aquifers, depleting of aquifers and things. And the state of California, Sacramento said it, we have to have a plan by a certain date. And if we don't do it, the state of California is going to come do it for us. So anyway, we're in the process of doing that. That's Thursday, June 21st at 5:30, right here. So thanks, staff, city manager, all the hard work you've been doing, department heads, knocking it out of the ballpark. Thank you. Thank you, Parks and Recs, Public Works, Finance, Police Department, Fire. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chester?
I'm also on a county board that meets tomorrow at 3 if you want to come to the mosquito abatement meeting. It's at 3 o'clock.
That's
right there on the 11th. I'll be
Put
there.
everything on your calendar to be there.
So anyway, that's it. I'll report on it next time.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Mr. Neal?
I will invite you guys to KCAO, but I'm gonna leave that alone. Let's talk about, I don't know if I can't bring your name up on this, but what's going on with the youth council that we was trying to get together at one time? You guys remember that? Recalling we was gonna get like. I didn't mean to put you on the spot like that.
Councilman Neal, we do have a youth committee. They've met in May, so they meet bi-weekly. They'll meet again in July.
Okay.
It's the third Thursday in July.
I never heard, nobody never gave me no input on that. Did anybody?
Students fill out applications, and we actually accepted all the students who fill out applications. There's actually 7 of them, and they all attend Lemoore High School.
Okay.
So we sent out applications to Lemoore High School, Kings Christian, West Hills.
When's the next one? Do you guys have to re-elect?
No, we'll continue to accept applications. Anyone who wants to join, they can join.
It's not too late with them.
Not at all.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
That's it.
Yeah, I just have one item that I wanted to talk about. I received a notification from Dr. Crystal Hernandez, who is the the director of Champions Recovery in Kings County. They do a lot of good work for substance abuse, homelessness, those kinds of things. They're having a seminar, informational seminar for Kings County Wellness Bridge, Hanford Homeless Service Center. This will be Tuesday, July 10th, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the Hanford Civic Auditorium. The City of Hanford has recently partnered with Kings County Wellness Bridge to create a service center to reduce homeless throughout Kings County. A location for the center is in the process of being purchased by the City of Hanford. We are seeking your support to ensure it becomes a success. Just wanted to mention that. All public is invited to come, and maybe even some city staff can attend that.
What date, what time was that on the 10th? please?
That is going to be, that's Tuesday, July 10th, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the Hanford Civic Auditorium.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all I have. At this time, we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for being here.
Hey, thank you, sir.
Introduce myself. Just hitting for Jeanette. Well, you did a good job. Well, thank you. I retired, actually. I was a city attorney in San Francisco. And I was a city attorney in Fresno before that. So
Oh, listen, thank you.